Welcome, my friend, Egbert Stoel from
Yeah,
the Netherlands. Did I
thank you.
say that like an Italian, or how did I do? Pronounce it for us.
Okay, Egbert Stoel. Egbert Stoel, but
Egbert Stoel.
yeah,
Yes,
you did great.
it's
Yeah.
beautiful. It's beautiful. And we have been friends since June, and
Mm,
and we met in that deep dive kind of stewing experience in the Enneagram. And you were a part of the first group that was completely online.
yeah.
And so obviously we're in different time zones, but you brought yourself and stayed up and made it through well, and you passed with flying colors, and your written papers were brilliant, and so much so that we wanted you to be a part of these conversations so that people could know you and know the Egbert that we
Mm.
came to know and love. So will you tell us a little bit about what you do in the world in all the ways that you'd like to name it?
Wow, thank you, Claire. Those you are too kind to me. But I was just thinking how you going online was one of the unexpected gifts, I think, of the pandemic right now, where we are able, despite lockdowns, to actually connect even more online and meet kindred spirits and learn from each other across time zones and continents. So that was a real gift, and I really appreciate your work and daring to bring it all online. So thank you for that. Yeah, so much of my work is actually online, almost exclusively, was already before the pandemic, because I'm coordinating a lot of care for Christian volunteers who leave their home countries to serve in other nations. In NGOs or little businesses, but to help people who are needy, and just to show the love of Christ in very practical ways in places, where there's just the need to show Him and make Him known.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real gift for me, to be in that way connected to so many places in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you are a spiritual director, and
Mm.
you are a pastoral coach, and you are a person who values others deeply. And
Mm.
it was one of the reasons Scott and I, as we were talking about who could talk about this day, which is day 24, it's Christmas Eve, and you'll be talking about valuing others and how you've seen Christ value you, how you've experienced the presence of Christ as valuing you. And then maybe we can unpack even a little bit more about this idea around Enneagram styles and how we see valuing others. And, we'll keep this kind of on the 40,000 foot view, but you work with many leaders in the world who are serving in dangerous places in our world. And so your ability to take care of the souls of others and value others is for the good of many who will never know that it was you.
Mm.
That you are behind the scenes. They may never know that this person who was caring for the souls of those who are caring for the souls on the ground. And that is the epitome, my friend, of valuing others. And you must have you must have met Jesus in this way in your own life to even want to offer it to other people, that you would be a person who would be sometimes what we call with Enneagram 9s, sacred backdrop, that there is this lovely way that while all the world is a stage, as Shakespeare would say, with many entrances and many exits, there are these please forgive me, but heroes among us who are willing to be sacred backdrop in order to let this light shine in ways that some people will never know, that you encouraged, you coached, you offered spiritual direction to the people who are right down in the war zone.
Mm. Well, yeah, thank you for stating it that way. And it actually touches me. It's not, and it hasn't always been easy to kind of be at the backdrop, because I've lived overseas myself, and that was a very explicit calling, and to kind of give that up was a struggle. But I do indeed enjoy, and I'm really blessed when I can let others, thrive. That's a real, real gift, I think, to be able to do that. And I was even thinking, about this conversation. I was thinking of people that I can relate with, like Joseph, Mary's husband. He is there. He has a very important role, but he's almost, hardly on the scene. But he is at some of these, key moments where he is able to accept Mary as she is, with all the stories around that. Or he listens to the angel. Or someone like Barnabas, who went to see Paul, who journeyed with Paul, but also who then, kind of left the scene again to let Paul do his work. Or Nicodemus, who, he came very carefully to seek out Jesus. And then later on, he's kind of he tries to make peace between the Pharisees and this new strange religion. And then he has this kind of coming out moment when Jesus dies, and he helps and provides for him. So those could be, I'm making this up, but those could be nines, and they inspire me.
I think you could be right. I do. I hear that as very true. That these beautiful places of letting others shine, but absolutely almost being like the moon. Francis and Claire, who are two of my heroes in the faith, brother sun and sister moon. Sometimes the moon is reflecting the sun. Maybe that's the right way to say it. I don't know, but I do see that there are these gifts, and so you have experienced this through Scripture and being able to see valuing others. Is that right? That's the story here.
It is, and it's often a challenge, I think, for me as a nine, to show up, to take a stand, to be called out to be that person. I was earlier today in my Advent readings, I was reading from Micah 5, and there's this prophecy about Jesus that he shall stand, and from that standing he will bring peace. And as I was reflecting on that, I think it's often the call for a nine who, it's easier for me, to sit at my Dutch dike and look at the river of life passing by and just, be a fence sitter and not really engage, but to take a stand, to stand for something. And I think that is, then it can be a source of real peace and strengthening of others. Or this verse from Song of Songs, where this dove, hiding in a cleft of the rock, is kind of asking, show yourself, come forward. And that's not always easy, but it's, I think, God's invitation for nines, and at least for me, to come, show yourself. You have a gift, a value to bring for others, and make a stand.
And even in
be there for others.
And so valuing yourself as you value others. And just a little question before we go into looking at the Enneagram, maybe others on the Enneagram style. I wonder, when you were a journalist, how did you show up in the world? What was that like? Making a stand, using your voice.
Oh, that's a good
and
question.
tell people how you did that. Where did you serve as a journalist?
So that was my former career. So I worked in the quote unquote mainstream media in the Netherlands. at our news agency here, a lot of foreign desk, so covering of world events. And I think it's a great place for me because I can be that observer. It's nice to be the person who asks questions. This is a little bit more uncomfortable, Claire. I'll be honest, to show up, but to see, I think to have that multiple perspective, and to see, okay, there's truth here, but there's also truth there, and then try to combine that and bring an honest story. And that's why it's saddening for me that at times the media are vilified as bringers of evil. Where although I'm no longer a journalist, I still feel passionate about that bringing truth and bringing perspectives. I hope that will still be a force for good even in these times. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And if people are watching this on the vlog or on Facebook, they saw you bring your hands together like this. Mm-hmm. But if they're listening on the podcast, they didn't see you bring your right hand and your left hand together. And what a beautiful image of a journalist bringing truth and bringing perspective, both right hand and left hand. Mm-hmm. And so you covered world events. And one of the ways that I've experienced you as valuing others, which is our word today on the 24th, is that in our communications, whether it was in June, where we had the murder of George Floyd, and we were together during those days, and you kept asking the Americans how we were doing. You were checking on us, you wanted to know from our Black friends that were students, how they were faring, how those of us that were having to hold the complexities of right hand and left hand right in our own congregations, mm-hmm. how we were faring. And then this week, as we were preparing for this conversation, you're asking me how we're doing here, what's it like in America? And I see that, almost wish you would go back into journalism, but the work you're doing now is very, very important as well. But when I hear someone like you who are bringing the right hand and the left hand together and bringing things in truth and valuing the voices of, those who have divergent thinking, and seeking to help people find a way. That feels very much like Jesus. That feels very much like our Joseph that you talked about, in being able to receive Mary and know that there were going to be people who had a different perspective other than Mary was carrying a child conceived by the Holy Spirit, right? And willingness to go into Egypt, and all of these things that are very, very nine-like, and valuing others. And it is the Imago Dei in you. It is the Imago Dei. And how do you see that? Maybe even, you can take this any way you'd like now. Is the Enneagram helping you to see and how are Enneagram styles valuing others or feeling valued by others? Go ahead, take it away, Egbert.
Thank you. Yeah, and just to comment on the thing that you just mentioned, earlier in November, there were two world events that really bothered me because I saw two sides not coming together. One was, the country that I love so much, the States, and the division there, and another one was a conflict on the Caucasus. And I wasn't able to do something about it, right? I wasn't able to heal, and it just bothered me so much. And I really needed an encounter with Jesus where he kind of stood behind me as I was praying and kind of massaging my shoulders and saying, hey, you don't have to take responsibility of that. And he kind of took all of that pain upon himself. And that's how he's caring for us and valuing us so much as humans, taking all of that discomfort that we are experiencing right now.
That is beautiful. And that is really a beautiful image. I hope that we can all take that in. and pray to be open to that kind of encounter with God in these days that are not easy, that are testing us.
Yeah. Mm. So would you want to go around the clock with the Enneagram styles, or?
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah, and please add, because I'm a learner, I'm learning from you, Claire. So yeah, when I think about the one and the good person, how they value others is by kind of coming alongside and seeing maybe things that can be done better or be reformed, and doing that in a way, hopefully, that is not judgmental or critical, but like really, I want to help you. I want to help you further. And when that can be done with a little bit of humor and empathy, then I think the ones are, can be so helpful to all of us, helping us forward.
Yeah, and if we could receive that from the ones as them valuing us when they're helping us to reform maybe our way of thinking or doing in the world. Yeah, and humor. Yeah, humor would help. So tapping into that 7, a little bit of surface stuff while they're getting down to the soul of it and saying, let's help reform you.
Yeah, and I think the 2, isn't that the quintessential, valuing others and wanting to love others, or wanting to help others wherever they can. And if they can do that without wanting anything in return, like really giving themselves, like Jesus, the suffering servant, who was despised, Isaiah 53, he was not respected, but he still kept on giving and kept on loving. That's, I think, such a beautiful gift that the 2s can give us, really giving and loving for the sake of the other.
Yeah, and a suffering servant. So I love that, thinking about the 2 as a suffering servant, not in the way that is martyr-like or expecting, but this, laying down their lives and knowing that we really could give Christ nothing in return.
Yeah.
Right. But it was the soul loving us. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So maybe we could take a breath and take that in as well.
Wow.
Our being valued by the suffering servant.
Yeah, whether we identify as 2s or not, we all need that truth, right?
Yeah.
So who would I be without the 3s in my life, Claire? Even you asking me on this podcast, calls me forward to show up and go a little deeper with the Enneagram. I think when 3s values others, they bring their very best, their strategic thinking and their planning and their energy to serve a cause. I know a leader in one of those ministries, and he says, he says, I want to be like an Abba, like a father of this is a praying ministry, just to serve these people and bring out the best in them.
And so if we could receive the 3s in our lives when they invite us to come on the internet or to bring out the best in themselves, that's experiencing Christ valuing us through that particular person.
And especially when 3s can, kind of the less of me, more of him, and just serve with all the energy and all the vision that they have. That's such a beautiful,
beautiful. Well, that could be a tagline for 3s: less of me and more of Christ. Beautiful.
The originals, right? The 4. Well, my wife is a 4, and we
I
don't
can
give.
tell because you started smiling as soon as you were talking about the 4.
And we here in the Netherlands, we don't. I mean, nowadays we do because of, I guess, our culture being influenced from the States. Give gifts with Christmas, but traditionally we do that at the beginning of December when we have a Sinterklaas party. So I made these flowers for my wife, who is a 4, and she said, you could have bought me flowers, but you actually doing something creative with paper, and it was a nightmare for me. But
Will you bring it back up for a minute? I've got to take a picture of these flowers because if Scott's going to, get me some flowers, I'm going to ask him, hang on one second. I'm going to get rid of that. Okay. They're beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah. Sorry, podcast listeners, you really should go and visit Claire's blog.
And learn how to make flowers for your loved one.
Yeah.
And so she felt valued.
Yeah, she felt valued by that. And I think 4s bring that really creative valuing with them, right? Seeing the uniqueness of others, being able to appreciate others as they are with all their, multifaceted ways that they are created. And 4s can really appreciate that in others and value that in others when they're healthy and bringing flair, lightening us all up with their creative energy.
I had a person who was a 4 that after, actually 2 friends who were 4s, actually after my dad died, she sketched a picture of my dad waving, a picture I had posted of my dad waving. She sketched that for me. And then the other 4, after Scott's dad died, painted Scott's dad holding the palm cross in his last hours, saw a picture of it and painted that. And you talk about the value we felt from those 4 seeing the meaning of our lives at that moment and helping us stay with that. Yeah. Oh, thank God for our beloved 4s.
They're not, they're not afraid of those difficult moments in others' lives.
Yeah.
They can really be with us when we suffer or in difficulty. Yeah, 5s. I've always felt so safe and accepted in the company of 5s because they don't, often they don't need something from me. They're just happy to be with me. And they're not often non-threatening, when they're close to their essence or their true selves. Yeah. So when 5s come with their wisdom and serve us, in compassionate ways, or really show up with the things that they know, and serve the greater good with that, with gentleness and conviction, bringing those 2 together. They're really a force for good with their unique, powerful brains and their ideas and their, concept thinking.
And I wonder if 5s would see themselves that way. Sometimes I think 5s don't know how much they mean to us, and how much we are valued by their diligence in learning and understanding and observing life, and then offering us their final analysis or their final question after they have been through all of the data. I think for 5s to know how valued we feel by their diligent intellectual work.
Yeah, what a blessing they are. Yeah. So on to the loyal 6s. Well, can anyone be more trustworthy and faithful and supportive than the 6? I have to say that I have had in the beginning, with the Enneagram, I had a hard time to appreciate the 6 because it remembers me of so much of my, darker moments where I can be fearful. But when 6s can, when they're questioning, that comes so easily, can really become authentic interest in others. Giving and extending trust to others. There's such a people who bring others together and are loyally serving, and thereby valuing all of us. I'm just thinking of Thomas, the disciple, with his questions. I don't know whether he was a 6 or not, but later on, he became an apostle to India. He went thousands of kilometers away from the Middle East, and that's where he ended up. So with all his doubting and questioning, what a faithful, loyal servant he became, and pioneering the church in India.
Wow. And I like the word with the loyal questioning, not, and even so, but with the loyal questioning, this apostolic gift emerging, because he went into the questions, and wow. And so may India be blessed on this day with the gift of questions that lead us to Christ.
Amen. Yeah. And for all of us to accept the questionings of the 6 as something that they want to bless us with, right? And protect us and help us further. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Now for the 7s, the joy givers, the energetic givers of good. I think all 7s that I know love to share chocolate with the rest of us and good stuff. Yeah, so they bring the extra spice in our lives, right, and take us further and help us explore value. I think when a 7 with that is also able to pause at times and really be, and with the same joy also accepting the pain or entering some of the difficulties. When that is combined, that's a beautiful gift that they bring. Yeah.
And truly joy. Is there a missionary or someone that you have seen as a 7 in history or modernity that you've seen them be able to hold both the difficulty, the suffering, and bring the joy?
Yeah, I'm thinking of a colleague of mine who's also spiritual director, and who is able to open her home and have guests and indeed share her chocolate. And such, so much energy and joy and welcoming and energy there. But she's also able to really sit with others and listen to their stories and be with them.
Beautiful.
Wow. On to the 8s. I have a mentor. He's an 8, and what a gift an 8. When you have an 8 as a friend, or an ally, that's when 8s are such great gifts. Especially maybe for me, the timid 9, to have an 8 who says, "Okay, I can do that for you," or "I can help you with that," or "I speak faith and courage in you." And I'm thinking of Peter, who was maybe, I don't know, an 8, really a gut person with immediate responses. And here I am, and bold. But then later in life, in Acts 15, where they had this big gathering, and okay, how are we going to combine the Jewish church and, the Gentiles? And he was really able to listen to both sides and then come up with helping to come to conclusions. I think that wisdom that the 8s also have, and that compassion that they can bring with their bold, taking bold stands at the same time.
Yeah, I have a colleague who is an 8, and we have said that she's like an alarm system. that like a smoke alarm, that when there's smoke, she immediately knows and is able to take action to protect. And how blessed we feel about this alarm system, that is true. And I do think that in Peter's spiritual formation, whether he was an 8, that's a possibility, right? And continued the formation and became in the book of Acts a discernimentarian that was able to be with the difficulty of all the alarms going off in the Jewish church and in the Gentile church, and become a real force for conversion, for transformation, for just a mature 8 for sure. If that indeed, beautiful. I like that. I like that idea.
Yeah. And they're often the unstoppable pioneers, in our world, who can open doors that others cannot open. Well,
and then we land on the 9.
The 9, the peaceful, non-threatening people who I think value others by giving them a safe place where they can just be who they are. But then, like I said, for a 9, actually to engage and to show up in that is value others by actually entering their lives and give themselves to really make peace, instead of just let that river flow by, but just engage and see, hey, how can I make a difference? How can I really bring peace in your life? How can I show up in this world? That's a growing edge for this 9, at least.
Well, I will say that what we're experiencing right now in your presence is peace like a river. And so while that's a growing edge, it's also the gift to us is that you are sitting by the river, and we're experiencing the peace and the calm of that flow. And I always say my husband is that wonderful regulating presence, that he can slow down the RPMs of a moment like nobody else. He can bring emotional regulation to our family and our church and his friends when we are on our edge, about to go over the edge. And I wonder, Egbert, as we consider the work that you're doing in the world, are you, in your spiritual direction practice, are you seeing anybody else outside of the ministry that you serve in? And if so, could we put your link here for someone who might be seeking a 9 as a spiritual director?
Feel free to contact Claire. Actually, I don't have anything out there right now, like a website, because mostly people just find me, or I'm just in networks and churches. Maybe I should do that, put myself out there a bit more. That would be a good challenge. But I especially feel called to serve those who cross cultures, cross boundaries, as something that I value. Indeed, that bringing together of worlds. If I can serve people who actually do that, that's the greatest blessing for me. Yeah. So if you are like that, feel free to contact Claire.
So I'll do that, and I'll have your email address, and we will just see how this kind of gift of the right hand meeting the left, for those in leadership in cross-cultural situations that need a place to be received, accepted, and valued. So, is there anything you want to say in closing?
Yeah, I think the invitation for me these past weeks has been to really just focus on Jesus. There's kind of this black hole, for me as a 9, that's sometimes that fearful side, it's almost like this black hole force, out there, and that's trying to suck us in, whether it's the pandemic or your own situation, your own life, or it's politics, or in some countries, war, or strife. But yeah, focus on Jesus and take a time just to inhale and exhale and be with him. And Lord, where are you in this moment? How are you looking at me? How can I focus on you? And Lord, for me to value another, I need to know deep inside that you value me. So Lord, show us a glimmer, or maybe in an amazing wave of your love and your appreciation for us. You who came as the suffering servant to serve us all, this whole world. Here we are, just to hear that from you, that you love us and accept us as we are. I want to focus, Lord, on you and not on that black hole that tries to suck us into a different direction. Amen.
Amen. Well, on this holy night, that this will be aired, or on any other day that people are watching or listening, we say, peace be with you.
Indeed. Greetings from the Netherlands.
Bless you, my friend.
Thank you, Claire. Bless you.
Thank you.